Nitin Mehta is the co-founder and executive director of ALCOI, one of India's leading suppliers of eco-friendly high-performance fenestration solutions. With an eye for identifying disruptive trends in the building envelope industry, Nitin continually looks for new ways to improve ALCOI's product portfolio and ensure market leadership. He integrates cutting edge technology with his experience in the metal industry, leading the design and development of high performance products in line with the market requirements. So let's welcome Mr. Nitin Mehta.
It was really great to have everyone's presentation. Frankly speaking, all these 20 years of being in fenestration, I've got the maximum insight from other participants here, especially Kaggle Craft, whose presentation was very well, designed and put forward in terms of ancient fenestration systems. So we've kind of born in times wherein we've started with looking at wooden materials as used for fenestrations. So I'll just start with my first slide. I've kept it pretty simple in terms of the viewers to understand how the materials for fenestration are evolving. And mostly you guys can have a look at the background pictures that I have used, which represent some pictorial representation, give a pictorial representation of different materials. So, all of us know India from the very beginning has actually been using carpentry-based wooden windows, and at that point of time, there was not much use of efficiencies, structural calculations, etc., etc. So, having started in 2006, frankly speaking, that no one was probably very much interested in using new age materials. Why? Because obviously human beings are conditioned to use a certain sense of, use a particular product. And it took quite a lot of time for every one of us in the fenestration industry to convince them to use different materials which are more, relevant to the Indian climatic conditions and which can withstand the Indian climatic, I would say, extremes better than the conventional wooden materials. So after the wood, in commercial establishments, considering the fire safety hazard issues, the government was the first one to start aluminum. The only drawback in the aluminum that was used was that the material had changed, but the engineering had not been introduced. Having meant to say that it was a carpenter-based aluminum window system, right? So it gave a few advantages in terms of non-maintenance as well as taking care of the extremities in the Indian climatic conditions. Then the next step was, or let's say parallel, people started using MS, which is mild steel, or GI, which is galvanized MS windows. So all these three products in the beginning, or let's say materials in the beginning, were, I would say, used for applications, but they did not have any engineering behind them. Although aluminum and MS have their own advantages and disadvantages, but having said that, I think lately what has come up trumps is the aluminum as a material for the Indian climatic conditions. So wooden had its own drawbacks of not being able to achieve larger spans, maintenance after rains, and MS had a problem of corrosivity. So even if you powder coat it and over a period of time, if there are some scratches on the product, the MS becomes exposed and it ends up kind of catching rust and then starts degrading with time. The aluminum as a material has always had an advantage in terms of, I would say, natural passivity layer that it develops and does not get corrodes with time, except give or take a very few extreme marine climates. But over there also, aluminum industry was able to build anodizing and a very high grade of anodizing, which helped them to kind of take away the problem very easily. So I would say that I would define this segment as more of the ancient segment. Ancient, not in the word as old times, but the starting, I would say, materials that were used in the Indian market. Now then came the engineered product, and India first kind of took it from Western countries, which was UPVC. UPVC stands for unplasticized polyvinyl chloride. Because of its engineered nature, doing away with the carpenter, getting a factory-made product fully fabricated to the site, gave a lot of advantages to the customer of not dealing with the headache of, something going short, multiple, I would say, interventions of buying a hinge, buying a handle, etc. So this was something which was like a modular window that came into the market, and people simply kind of, got swayed away with using UPVC as a product. And slowly aluminum started entering into the market, and engineered aluminum product. Now, very key advantages that aluminum really introduced over UPVC was that, number one, people got a lot of advantages of using different colors. I mean, UPVC primarily is a white or an off-white product, but aluminum can be colored in any, RAL or wooden effect, or for that matter, metallic finishes. The second advantage that came in was very large spans. Why? Because UPVC as a plastic product does not have a strength of its own. So obviously it has some limitation in terms of the large spans that we can achieve in UPVC. And the third thing was that obviously aluminum with larger spans was able to take heavier glasses as well. Now that's also another add-on. Why? Because larger spans mostly would mean that the weight that can be put in a sash would not be as much as normally, the customer is actually planning for in terms of using the particular glass. But aluminum was able to do that. So going forward, now, again, UPVC and aluminum are the present trend. I would say the wood, aluminum, MS and GI, which were unengineered, are the older trends. Aluminum, engineered and UPVC are the present trends. Having said that, UPVC for some applications is very apt when the sizes are limited, when you need a natural thermal break. You are not in a very, very, in a tropical climate, UPVC for that matter is good, except for some, I would say, degradation that it kind of develops on the surface of becoming yellow over a period of time, etc. But for some temperate climates, it's a very good product. Now, for the present, I would say trend, UPVC and engineered aluminum are actually in, where most of the people are quickly moving on to these kind of materials. Now, going into the future, or I would say that these things have started touching the Indian palate as of now as well, is the aluminum thermal break. Although aluminum thermal break is for temperate climates, like where you have very old, I would say, low temperatures. But again, customers are becoming more aware, electricity and coal becoming more expensive. Slowly, the trend would definitely move on to using thermal break aluminum, which is one drawback that aluminum has over UPVC. And obviously, the industry is pushing hard to kind of cover that. And okay, here there is an error when I read my line on wood. It's not unengineered, but wooden engineered windows have also come into being. And again, they have also been able to do larger spans. But yes, the longevity of the product is always a question. Why? Because wood is a product which cannot ever be 100% dry. It will carry moisture 10-20%, even if it has been properly dried. So for larger span, sometimes that becomes a problem. So, but yes, people who like wood, they like the warmth of wood, are definitely going in for engineered wooden systems. Going forward, there is something called as alu wood as well, wherein you get the durability of aluminum on the outside and you get the warmth of wood on the inside. What I mean to say is it's a sandwich window. Aluminum has wooden cladded on it. So when you look at the window from inside, it looks like a wooden window. But from outside, it is actually an aluminum. And when you see it from outside, you see the aluminum facade. This is yet to catch up with the Indian customer. Why? Because engineered wood, alu wood and fiber are, India being a price sensitive market, are way much higher than what present trends can actually, afford as a product. And something that is already started doing the rounds is a fiberglass window. Now here you can achieve spans. It's a natural thermal break. And internationally, the trend has started to pick up in terms of using fiberglass windows. So this is more or less to do with the materials that we have now, and probably what is gonna come into the future can be a UPVC with a wooden composite, aluminum with a UPVC composite. So most of the basic materials now are gonna be pitched against each other, and pitched in the sense that people would come out with more composites in times to come. And let's see whether the composites can be I would say suitable to the pocket of the Indian customer. That's a very important point. Why? Because India has a lower purchasing power, and price sensitivity actually is important to kind of address. So I'll go to my next slide now, which is more to do with briefly about the design and the mechanisms. Now, when we talk about design, again, we've always had something which is very classical and which probably Kaggle Craft explained very well in their presentation, wherein a classical is something wherein you kind of doing fenestration for classical houses in terms of neoclassical houses, Victorian houses, etc., where the sections and other things need to be defined in a more voluminous way, so as because they are adding to the design element of the I would say the architecture. And when you say contemporary, which is the latest trend, we are looking at something called as slim and minimal systems, wherein people want that the minimum possible obstruction between inside and outside. So this has become a very big favorite of Indian architects, even internationally, that everyone wants that the frame should not be visible at all. So there should be no obstruction when I'm trying to create a view from inside to the outside, or from the outside to the inside for the customer's residence. Whatever buildings that we see, high-rise buildings are also kind of a resultant of using more glass and less aluminium, and rightly so. If you have a room, I'm just trying to break the problem in a smaller packet, and you have 4 walls inside, obviously you get conditioned to seeing it all day, every day, 365 days, maybe n number of years you're going to live in that house. Now, what a minimalist facade does is changes your interior every minute. You may wake up in the morning and you have rains, so suddenly the 3 walls that are encapsulating that one fenestration become unimportant, but something that's happening outside. God has given us natural colors outside to enjoy. So that is why people want more and more glass, but not compromising on the functionality. So this has become very important these days in terms of people wanting larger and larger glasses, because they want to really bring in nature inside the houses. And you'll see, many architects would also kind of acknowledge the fact that the sills are gone, the windows have become more or less doors. We still call them windows because they are starting from the floors. And the idea being that when you draw out your curtains, you just have a third wall which is changing all the time. So that's the trend that has really picked up well. And when I talk about mechanisms, something that the customer and the architect has really benefited is, just like it happened with carpentered kitchens and then modular kitchens were introduced. So similarly, now we have modular prefabricated windows which become 100% ready at site. So you don't have to bother about probably, kind of making the product at site. So that's something which the customer has really appreciated. Why? Because it cuts down on the time, and at the same time, it gives them a better quality. And the last that I want to talk about in terms of mechanism is the structural and thermal efficiency. So other than the fittings, etc., which are available in mostly these days, all the basic materials that we have, something that has become very important for the customer and the architect is that all these modular or the prefabricated products are coming with structural calculations. So wherein, we might have an example of the glass breaking by itself, although there is this thing as nickel sulfide impurities in glass which make it break. But then if the product is under design, it will in any which ways be bound to break. So structural calculations is something which the fenestration companies are adding on to the material, that respective material that they are using. If I'm using UPVC, structural calculation would tell me that what kind of a steel reinforcement I need to use for making the product, I would say, structurally stable. If we use aluminium, we have to check on to the moment of inertia calculations. If we use wood, again, the volume of the wood has to be increased, or some reinforcement has to be given. And then comes thermal efficiency, which again, as I explained in my first slide, that thermal breaks, natural thermal breaks are, I would say, an effort towards achieving this kind of, I would say, efficiency in terms of thermal savings, probably. So I'll go on to my last slide. Now, something that has also kind of changed over time, although, this is something, glass has always remained glass, although We have options of using acrylic and polycarbonate, but the price of those products in terms of clear visibility is not nowhere near to what glass is these days giving us. So obviously we started with annealed glass in the beginning, which I would say were the earlier trends in the industry. But then we had grills along with annealed glass, so as for protection. And then the market has moved on to toughened glasses. Now toughened glasses are 4 to 5 times more stronger than annealed glasses. And lately for thermal efficiency, people have started and architects have started recommending double glass units. And these double glass units have multiple advantages of reducing heat ingress, or let's say thermal efficiency, increasing thermal efficiency. They have advantage of if one glass breaks, the other still kind of, is there, so that tomorrow when a replacement comes, your house is not open to, extreme weather conditions. And it also helps in reducing condensation. That's also very important. And for security purposes, we have laminated glasses these days, which has a PVB layer, which is called polyvinyl butadiene inside it. Which it is, if I have to compare, it is same as the front windshield of a car, wherein if it cracks, it will not kind of shatter. It will always be there in its place, and you'll have to take out the entire unit. And if you combine the double glass unit with the laminated, you end up getting a laminated insulated glass, which is a combination of 3 glasses, wherein you get security, you get thermal efficiency, all things together. And for very, very temperate climates, or maybe the west or the south facing facades where there is a lot of heat, we can also look at using triple glass units. So this is more or less to do with the basic materials and how the materials have evolved in our industry. And now over to the host for taking it forward. Thank you very much, everyone.